Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to my frequency. Today we're gonna watch some creepy TikToks that make you question reality. So let's do it.
Have you guys ever heard the story of the CIA faking a vampire attack in the Philippines?
Yes, I just recently heard about that. It's like the massacre or something like that. Yeah, there's a label for it. I can't remember, but I saved it. Yeah,
It's wild.
tell us about it.
So this is right after World War II, right?
Okay.
And so Japan had occupied the Philippines, and as a result of Japan occupying the Philippines, there was a group, I forget what they were called, but basically rebel fighters. But they had very close ties to the Communist Party. If we know anything about the U.S., we hate communists.
Ayo.
So they're like, hey, we need to go into the Philippines and get rid of these rebel fighters because they're ushering in communism. They weren't really. They just had ties to communism, but ultimately they're trying to fight to gain their independence back because they are under the Japanese rule. But during this time, when the Japanese were occupying the Philippines, all the leaders and stuff, like the presidents, like all that stuff, they allied with the Japanese against their own people. And so these people formed their own rebel group to fight this fight the tyranny of what they were under. So there's some just cause in the beginning, but then it started getting like out of hand to where they're attacking their own citizens and all that stuff. Not good stuff. So in 1950, the U.S. sent Lieutenant Colonel Edward Lansdale. Edward Lansdale. And he was sent there to stop the communist rebellion groups. Turns out this Colonel Edward was one of the founders of the CIA.
Oh.
So this was before the CIA existed. And he basically wrote the book on PSYOP tactics to use during warfare, like psychological warfare. Mm-hmm. And so he went in there and was doing basically all these tests, like just figuring out like what works psychologically to fight these people back.
Also, they took advantage of like their myths and their lore and their local culture
Yeah,
too.
that's what I'm
So like
saying. That's what I'm getting to. So he like, what was interesting about this colonel though, before he joined the military during World War II, he worked as a advertising agency. Like he owned his own advertising agency. So his understanding of the human mind and psyche was like pretty top notch. But one of the first things that he did when he was there, so the people of the Philippines have like a lot of lore and like myths and all that stuff, kind of like every culture. But one of them, a big thing for them is curses. And so one of the first things that he did was these civilians were hiding these rebel groups within their homes and stuff. He took a plane with a speaker on it, was flying it over these villages and basically saying your family will be cursed, blah, 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 if you do not let, or if you embed, is that the word?
If you
keep
shelter
these rebel fighters. And then the next day, sure enough, all these rebel fighters are showing up, like
getting
kicked out. And so he's just doing different tactics like this.
It's not fair.
But in the Philippines, there's this mythological creature called the aswang, which is basically like this deity, demon, like winged creature that sucks the blood out of people. So it's like their version of a vampire.
Yeah.
It's a shapeshifter too.
Yeah, there's like so many, like there's different forms of it that people talk about or whatever. And there's this base of rebel fighters on top of this mountain, and this colonel sent in a group to go covert at night, and they came across these guards, and they snatched one of them. And then they punctured his neck, 2 holes, flipped him upside down, drained all of his blood, and left him there.
That is a war crime.
And then they had locals all around the mountain talking about, like they like double agents or whatever, saying like, oh, there's rumors of the aswang being around these regions and stuff. And then the next day they find this guy who's drained of blood. Then the next day they're all dispersed. They're like, we're out of here.
Yeah.
And so that was the craziest thing of just like the CIA literally faking a vampire attack.
But they really took a life.
Yeah,
absolutely.
They're fighting them.
I mean, imagine. I mean, I can't imagine like what that would be. What's more terrifying, a vampire creature that's draining people's blood, or a group of people who are willing to come into your village and stage it and actually drain a human's blood from their body. That's even more terrifying, I think. So it's like either way, it's going to work. Golly, dude.
Have you guys ever heard the story of the CIA faking a vampire attack?
A group of people staging it. That reminds me of, see, things don't change. Like in South America, the aliens running through the graves, or running through the forest after people and what have you. Sounds a little similar, doesn't it? And yeah, a group of people that will stage something to get what they want. Hint, hint.
When it comes to the Book of Enoch, there are 3 things that I guarantee you've heard before. 1, it's not canonized, so it can't be scripture. 2, it's a different Enoch. And 3, it was written long after the flood. Well, I'm here to demolish all 3 of those. Canonization is the process by which books of the Bible were discovered as authoritative. So, is this person who they say they are, and did they hear from God? Well, we can all agree that this Enoch definitely did. I mean, he walked with God so closely that God took him. He did not even need to see death. And we all know that Enoch's genealogy. It's Adam, Seth, Enosh, Kenan, Mahalalala, Jared, Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, and then Noah, right? Now, if you're a naysayer, I know 2 things about you for sure. 1, you've heard these misconceptions from someone else. And 2, you've never read this. Because if you had read this, you would have seen an angel sent by God named Uriel to show him everything and a bunch of prophecies of what's to come, everything about the cosmos and so on and so forth. Then you would see that also Enoch passed down to his son Methuselah to hand down the generations for the whole world to see. Yes, this Methuselah. And you'll see in chapter 83 his grandfather's name, Mahalalala. Yes, this Mahalalala. All jokes aside, his genealogy, his family is mentioned all through the book. So that's how I know you heard it from someone else and you haven't read this book. Now, think of who canonized it. Now that we've obviously determined that Enoch is a verified saint, and the book of Enoch was obviously written by this Enoch. The Catholic Church, the popes, they canonize. Yes, the Catholic Church, the popes who are at the Vatican, which pays homage to the freaking serpent, and has a telescope named Lucifer there. If you had taken the time to read this, you would understand the influence that these fallen angels have had on this world since the beginning of time, okay? And you would find that there's evil at the top of every pyramid, including the Vatican, and that's easy to see. Super easy to see, and you would find that if they are the ones that are hiding this, and they pay homage to the serpent, and they don't want you to read this, should I say more? When it comes to the Book of Enoch, there are 3 things that
My rule of thumb when it comes to the people in charge is basically believe the opposite. And I believe in God and all that, but I have issue with anything they've had their hands on, especially since before I was born, because they like to change things for their benefit. And it reminds me of the Book of Eli, the movie. That guy wanted the Bible so bad so he could use it to control people. And I'm not saying that it's not real or anything like that. I'm just saying that they're probably leaving it out for a reason. Yeah, man. Tell me what y'all think about this. This is I think it's obviously Enoch from the Bible. But yeah.
We see a moving sidewalk. This is remarkable. I mean, think of the feat of creating this and then putting this out into the middle of the lake. Just absolutely remarkable. And then we go through all of these pictures. We have all these different people. They show all these different people, almost like the people were on display. This is interesting. California is growing a lot of oranges, which now we know there's the Florida orange instead. Now, these cute little boats were carrying all the materials. That's what they tell us, because that's the Christopher Columbus, the Pinta. Remember that whole story, which is funny? Interestingly enough, food in a pyramid, which I thought was fascinating. And then as we go a little farther in here, let me kind of scroll a little bit here for you guys to see. But then we get to all these different buildings. And they say each building was temporary. Now, this is interesting because this looks like a church. So they just put this up over the summertime, and then they just built all of these. I mean, it's comical at this point. I think most of people, if you followed my page, or you've seen my videos, I don't think any of this is what we truly believe. It looks like there was a very advanced civilization who knew how to build things like this, and they vanished. Or there was some sort of mud flood, or almost a static field event, in which everything just maybe flipped. And everything flipped upside down, and then mud came down from the sky. Because there's a lot of weird stories about like fish coming out of the sky, and all these different frogs coming out of the sky. I have a book on that, which I'll go over too. But look at these more old buildings. Each one is a state. Each one has a name. And when you look at these, they don't look too temporary. And what's interesting is they said that this was all made out of paper mache, which is funny because if you think about how much time it would take to make this out of paper mache, I took a paper mache class in like 6th grade. I mean, surely, this one looks like the White House again. And then just more buildings. This is interesting. This is the largest piece of gold in the world. I believe it says that it represents $16 million worth of gold. 228 tons of gold. So if you think about that, this is just sitting around, just hanging out, big piece of gold, like just hanging out. And then we get into all the traveling sidewalks. This is a good one. You just stand on the sidewalk, and the sidewalk takes you. So what's interesting is O'Hare Airport actually has this, but this was outside too. So see, they kept a little bit of things in Chicago, and then they pretty much demolished the rest. Here's a big horse.
It's a big horse. Yeah, well, the greedy the greedy and the Freemasons and all that, they took charge, and then they don't want you to have things that last forever. They want you to keep lining their pockets with money. The first light bulb that was ever made is still lit today. They mass manufacturing, they do it so that you have to keep going back and keep going back and keep going back. If they wanted to, they could build things that didn't do that. You know what I mean? And as far as the architecture goes, those buildings, you saw those crosses on top of that church? Those were probably antennas giving out electricity, free electricity, wireless electricity, before. They're not going to do something where they ain't going to make money. That's all I'm saying.
Now, you said something on social media the other day that outer space is the ocean.
Right.
Explain that.
I can't do it.
You can't explain it?
I can explain it, but I don't want to explain it on camera.
Is it one of those things where it's just like, we don't know what's up there and we don't know what's down there?
Wow, where did this guy ever get such a crazy idea? Well, maybe it was the 2016 Hennessy ad that was about Auguste Piccard, the first man to ever reach the stratosphere. Check this out.
Truth in plain sight.
Wow, plot twist. I bet you didn't see that coming. That's a weird ending. Also, what does it have to do with booze? Strange, right? Or maybe it was this. In 2013, an Italian astronaut nearly drowned to death in space.
It's hard to tell, but it feels like a lot of water.
Water? In his helmet?
yes, if there's enough water, he certainly had that risk today, and that's why we took it so seriously.
That's right. She said Luca Parmitano was in danger of drowning in his spacesuit, orbiting 260 miles above planet Earth.
That's strange, right? That's weird. Or maybe it's this. Genesis chapter 1, verse 6. Then God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." Thus God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And he called the firmament heaven. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe he just reads his Bible and believes it.
Here's something. You know, they say stars is like burning gases and stuff like that. And then I was taught you can't build a fire without oxygen. So I've always questioned, well, how are these giant stars burning in a giant vacuum without oxygen, right? So, yeah, they explained it. I don't have to go into the waters above and below and all that stuff. The guy should have talked about it on camera. I guess he would have lost his career.
The elevation changes as you go towards the water. Is it possible that they have filled in the other ancient buildings around the surrounding area and built on top of it and made it look like a hill instead? Are we driving on top of ancient remains? Now, as a side note, I wanted to mention that I think it's really odd that we all know what CERN is, but the town that CERN is in is called Geneva. And it's a particle accelerator place located in a town called Geneva. Fermilab is a particle accelerator place, and it is also located in a town called Geneva. Yet CERN is in Switzerland, and Fermilab is in the United States of America, right next to Chicago. So why are these towns called Geneva hosting particle accelerator plants? I just find that very interesting, and I just wanted to put that out there for us all to think about.
Here we are walking up towards St. Charles. I can already see an old world building. This is just in front of everybody. Nobody understands what they're looking at or what they're driving past. It's unbelievable. Look at the windows, the circular window in the front. Look at the stonework. It's just incredible. This is not the way we build today. This is incredible. Over and over again, when you're walking throughout these towns, you see that they tried to fix the building and they didn't know how, so they used a different material. Over and over you'll see it. It's two different materials to try to fix this building. Here's a clear picture. And they didn't know how, so they used a different material. Over and over you'll see it. It's two different materials to try to fix this building. Here's a clear picture. This building is incredible. There is stonework like you wouldn't believe in the front of it. It's an insurance company building. Guys, this is not an insurance company building that you see in your everyday area. It's impossible. We don't build like that. Here's another where they tried to fix it and they had to use different material. It's clear as day and it's right in front of you. Look at the windows above this building. It's called Lewis. But just look straight up. Look at above the windows. Do we build like this? You have to ask yourself, do we build like this? The answer is no. Look at the architecture on this bay window. Clearly built from the old world. On the side of this building, it's called Smitty's. It looks weird. Like they have one on each side of the road, and there's clear tech right on top of that thing. And they're on both sides of the road. And another building with it's brick and it's stone. It's two different things. So obviously they needed to fix it or something. It's just clear as day right in front of your face. Very weird. Now, this hotel, the front entrance is incredible. It's nothing like we build today. It has 4 pillars that are spiraling with incredible stonework right above it. Another state bank with granite pillars in St. Charles, Illinois. Here's another hotel, 1851. 1851, they were building these.
The elevation changes as you go towards the water.
As far as the elevation change, I wouldn't doubt it, because if you go, I worked at a furniture store and take a lot of stuff to the dump, and what they do at the dump is they throw trash in, they cover it up, and they keep doing that, and then they keep working back around, and it keeps getting higher and higher. So that might be the method that they use to cover up old architecture and stuff like that. But I don't understand why they would save some of it. I guess because nobody says anything about it, maybe. Y'all tell me.
If anything good has come out of this horrific war, it's that the moral depravity of the so-called rules-based order has been exposed to the masses. The mask has fallen from the neoliberal class. For far too long, liberal Western politicians have tried to convince us that they live by the standards of human rights, democracy, and freedom of speech. These are the same individuals and countries that say Israel has a right to defend itself against the world's largest concentration camp. Our so-called Western leaders in Washington, in London, in Brussels have weaponized human rights. They've weaponized democracy to promote humanitarian wars and to expand their settler colonial projects. But let's not forget that this is the same ruling class that brought us the wars in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Libya, in Somalia. And they're the same ruling class that have given us and pushed for the brutal maximum pressure campaigns, sanctions, and regime change operations against sovereign countries like Syria, Iran, Venezuela, Cuba, and so many more countries who are resisting Western imperialism. Israel's war in Gaza is just an outward and blatant expression and representation of what the neoliberal class represent. A bloodthirst for war that fuels the military-industrial complex. Lockheed Martin and Raytheon, 2 weapons manufacturers, applaud this genocide. Think tanks that are funded by these weapon manufacturers draft the war policies and hand them to our politicians to make these wars inevitable. We see dead children. They see their stock prices go up. But it's clear, no matter how many millions of dollars that they spend to manufacture consent for their wars and support for Israeli apartheid, Palestinians have won the hearts and minds of humanity. Never have I personally seen in my lifetime such global dissent and awakening to Israel's propaganda war in Gaza. We are witnessing a global enlightenment. Millions upon millions of people have taken to the streets. Mass sit-ins at our elected officials' offices have been organized, and mass boycotts of monolithic corporations. The massive coffee company Starbucks lost $12 billion in a matter of just 1 month from our global boycott campaign. We have to disrupt their money-making mechanisms that make these wars possible. The capitalist system that we live under today is meant to make us feel powerless. But we have the power in our hands to disrupt their money-making mechanisms and stop this war. And guess what? It's working, and Israel knows it. The architects of the wars know this. And that's why today Israel is spending literally millions of dollars on propaganda, on an information war to manufacture consent.
I mean, what are you going to add to that? Absolutely correct. Except Israel ain't spending massive amount of money. They're taking it off the work of our back, the sweat of our back. And we're not just finding out about it. I already knew about it, and I'm sure my subscribers already know about it. You know what I mean? Like, this ain't nothing new to us. We know. But she's very on point. But I wouldn't be surprised if she don't work for them and they just telling us to our face. But nah, that was good. I have nothing to add to that. If y'all got something, y'all go ahead and write it. Let me know. Alright guys, that's another one in the books. That was a good one. I really enjoyed that one. Hope y'all did too. Thanks for sticking around if you're still here. I just wanted to add this before I get out of here. If y'all got any requests, if y'all want me to hear, I mean, these are real good videos and I'm going to keep doing them. But if y'all want me to hear some kind of music, I don't care if it's your music, I don't care if it's, you know, what genre. You know, I'm going to be honest with you. If it's garbage, it's garbage. I'm going to let you know. If it's good, it's good. You got movies y'all want me to see, same thing. Any kind of request, y'all want to see me play some kind of retro game. If y'all don't want to see me doing any of that stuff, just let me know and I won't do it. You know what I mean? But I do want some recommendations from my subscribers. And but otherwise, I'll just keep pumping these out and just doing what I feel. You know, nothing wrong with that. So, you know, with that said, like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment. Or don't. I really don't care. And I'll see y'all next time.